All those in favor?
Aye.
It carries. Thank you. I will just add, we've been having this ongoing conversation about the different bodies around public safety. This body, SAFE, Civilian Appeals Board, and the city manager did say, I don't know if that sort of follow up after the review, after some discovery by Mr. Brandon Davis, oh my gosh, why can't I remember people's names today? Should be either next month or the following month.
Okay.
So that will be coming back to the entire committee of the whole.
That's great.
The next item is a resolution recognizing the Police Retirement Systems appointment of Justin Ewald to the Police and Fire Retirement Systems Board of Trustees. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any comment on this appointment, colleagues?
No, I sit on that board, and I think that he's going to make a great appointee. That police and fire system appointment position is going to be a good position for him. I understand that he is, and I met him at the last board meeting, so
Okay.
he's great with finances, so he understands what that police and fire appointments position is going to be about.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for your service on there as well, Commissioner Moody. And yes, given the liabilities that we have and, obviously, as we look at, sort of where we spend our money in the city, we know that our retirement system is one. And so to have individuals serve, it's probably not as exciting as Committee on Appointments, but it's a good board. We need individuals to serve on these. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It carries. Thank you. The next item is a resolution recognizing the General Retirement System's appointment of Martin Timkovich. Timkovich? Hopefully I'm saying that. I'm sorry.
Timkovich.
Timkovich. Thank you. Names are important, so I like to be able to say them correctly. Timkovich. Martin Timkovich to the General Retirement System Board of Trustees.
So moved.
Support.
Thank you, colleagues. Any comments about,
And Martin has been on that board for quite some time. He is excellent in what he does. He has the background in finances. He has the background in understanding the markets, and he's been real. Since I've been on there, I've learned a lot just listening to him ask questions, so he knows what he's doing. He's a great appointment to that position.
okay, great. Thank you again, Commissioner Moody. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it carries. Thank you. So the next up, wow, you are right on top of it, City Clerk. Thank you. There's a few things that we wanted to do today. One of them was just going to the entire list of our vacancies. We're getting close to the end of the calendar year when many appointments are coming due. I also do want to say a thank you to City Clerk and Daniel for the work on, some of you may or may not, Commissioner Lanier received an email kind of reminding her of her appointment. I can't remember what body it is, but that it was going to come due and what were the necessary steps to take for that. And so as we continue to refine this process, make sure, that there are ample time so we can review the openings, and also just remind people, when they're coming due and that they have to sign the affidavit and turn that back into the clerk's office. I know my husband, abstained, was approved last meeting to BZA, and he quickly got his packet. I think by Friday he had gotten the packet in the mail.
Great.
So that was great to see. So this is we just wanted to pull this up today to sort of go a little bit of line by line. I don't know everyone will have as much. And then also at the end, the opening too, we want to highlight, Commissioner Repart, you brought this up, I've talked to the mayor about it, is our housing trust fund board. And so we'll leave that for the last part of the meeting, if that's okay with you.
That's great.
Okay.
Just one thing to remind you, as we're going to end of year appointments and we're asking people to reapply and do their PIFs, the mayor has made it clear to make sure that they're under no assumption that they're going to get reappointed.
Okay.
The possibility is there.
Sure.
But there shouldn't be any, feel like you're guaranteed you're going to get reappointed. I think that sometimes there's that assumption, and then when she doesn't, then they
Right.
get upset. So just keep that in our minds.
And I think, and I don't know, obviously they get an entire packet that has like the rules and all these other pieces associated with the policy. And so maybe that's something we can even put into that initial letter so that no matter what, people know that up front. And I think, with any board, right, we don't know if we're going to be reminded, but I think specifically on some of these boards where you build up some knowledge, and that's great. And also, we want to make space for, new individuals and new experiences. And somebody might be on one board, but maybe they could go serve on another one. So if we could also operationalize that in some way, that would be positive. I know they get a letter from the mayor, and they also get a letter from the attorney's office as well. Correct, Patrick? Or at least I remember seeing that in there. So maybe in one of those letters, if we could identify that this gets reviewed, prior to your term coming up, and you may be asked to continue or to not. So
For each person that applies for a board, their what I want to say is their position to sit on that board determines on the year that they have being on that board. Like public safety is a 1 year.
yeah, yep. So each one is determined by the bylaws for
Right.
each different committee, and some.
So my question is, I don't mean to cut you off, Commissioner.
No, you're fine.
In that package, do they receive bylaws?
I don't know, city clerk, because that would probably be up to the liaison versus directly from city attorney and city clerk's office.
Yeah, I think our packet is very general for being on boards and commissions, and then it's any kind of bylaws or rules. We have them. They're all on our website. So if you went to like public safety, you can see all how they were set up, how they were ruled.
So we want to make sure, and I use public safety as an example, we want to make sure that those individuals who are appointed to the public safety or apply for public safety understand that their term is 1 year and that they have the responsibility that if they want to stay on, they have to
Yeah,
re-up.
yeah,
And I think that's where the problem coming in at, where we have a lot of people who were on public safety didn't realize that or paid attention to the fact that they had just a 1 year term.
yeah. No, that's a good point. And so also when we think about the letter, and Daniel's not here, so I do want to, be mindful as he's the one who's preparing these documents, city clerk, that go out to be mailed. But I do think some communication about, no presumption of reappointment. This is what the term is for. As well as, I think that's a very good point about the bylaws for each one, and/or as we move, that perhaps that could be in the letter, or we've talked about the liaison committee, city clerk, and how we can make that more robust. Do we have a checklist where we know, at the first meeting, everyone would receive that? Would they get that in advance? But I think that's a very good point, Commissioner Moody.
Thank you.
We just keep adding items to the to-do list. And probably what we need to do is, much like we do on civil service, and I don't know that we have it active right now, but in the past, we would have a project log of sort of what this body is asking staff to do, which I think is fair, because all of this is in our minutes, but it doesn't get taken into sort of a project plan. So, city clerk, can we work on that together?
Well, Daniel and I have been kind of working
Okay.
on that to get there, so.
But could we have that more visible to us as commissioners? Because I think that will be certainly, I think, one of the things that this body would like to do in this year. You all have been actively engaged in it, and then be able to say, but I think some more visibility for this would be great for us. Because I feel like, what did I ask Joel, going back and just making sure that I'm not going back to ask something new, or knowing that you all have been giving us regular updates. So that would be great. Okay, so that's sort of the macro view of this, but now let's go to the micro view and look at each individual body. So the first one is our Board of Zoning Appeals. I actually had a conversation about this board with somebody who I thought might be interested in planning. They are not ready for that commitment, so is Kristen Turkelson here? She'll be happy that we'll get another person for BZA. This is a second ward constituent, so they asked if I could sit down with them to just navigate them to the PIF next week.
Okay.
So that is one. Unless there's others, I would enter. Obviously, that's not just the only choice, but that's somebody, they're coming with an architectural engineering background.
Question, one more question. It's interesting that for zoning appeals, I got got into a conversation with a member who's coming off of zoning, and they were concerned that they did not understand that their term was up.
Okay.
So for zoning appeal, is it 4-year term, 3-year term? As I was looking through to find out what exactly was that term.
Yep, it's a 3-year term.
Okay.
And honestly, that has been a board where we've struggled to, we had quite a few people who went off. It can be time consuming, much like planning, probably not to the same extent.
So, but that person,
But if they were interested in, I would.
I mean, what I want to say is when you get reappointed, after you get reappointed, you serve another 3-year term. When is that term limited?
I'd have to go and look specifically at those bylaws.
I don't know on zoning board of appeals. I know planning commission, I think it's 3
It's
terms.
3, yeah.
So it may mirror that. I don't know for certain. But if there is somebody who's going off and they would like to be reappointed, I think given the technical nature of this body, it would be good to know if they've fully exhausted those terms or just to review that. So if you feel comfortable sharing that after the meeting, that'd be great, Commissioner. So that's one. Planning Commission, I know the mayor has identified somebody, and that should be coming forth in our next meeting. Not prepared to share the name at this time. I think I want to be mindful of that too as our body. We certainly want to have full transparency, but we want people to be able to go through the process before we share. Civil Service Board, there was somebody from the 3rd Ward who was interested. They had a job change. They are still interested and said, could we reconnect in the beginning of the calendar year? So I can certainly follow up with this person so that perhaps they could sit in that first meeting in January. But again, if there's others that you all feel, please let us know. If you can keep on scrolling, City Clerk, our Community Relations Commission, there is one name that the mayor and I have discussed as well as discussed with Miss Stacy Stout. So we'll continue on with that one. I think she was going to have a conversation with that individual. She and I just talked on Friday. And then some of these that are the city manager appointments, we have, I think, it's important to note that some of these are mayoral, some of us that we get them, but probably the more, if you want to scroll down, city clerk, our city manager and mayoral appointments. So I don't know with the various appointments, could we identify on, like when I look at the DID city clerk, because it says various appointments, so it'd be good to know out of those 4 which appointments those are. So then that would help us to make sure we can fill those appropriately, because I know sometimes we might get a little ahead of ourselves and it was like, no, this is really a GRPS appointment or this is a, another appointment. I don't have any other updates, I think, in general, unless any of you do, so we don't necessarily need to call out each one, unless either of you have comments.
I just saw that in our packet tonight, Tennille Harkness is having to step down from Mobile GR, so she was somebody that I recruited for that, so I'll try to look for someone in the 1st Ward for that board
Okay,
to replace her.
that would be great. Commissioner? And then I think there was also one person for the Parks and Rec Board. I know Commissioner Repart, you and the mayor had talked about this, and so there was also somebody that that she had identified on Friday that she's also going to have a conversation with out of the 1st Ward, so we can follow up on that as well.
Great.
All right.
So for example, on public safety,
Yes.
so you have these remainder of one, so we have 4 openings. So, the appointment we just did for Kyle was actually for 2021, because his PIF was kind of held up. So he's gonna have to reapply again for 2022.
Okay.
So he's gonna have to go through this,
Again.
yeah.
Once we
And
get-
so for example, we have 4 one-year terms, so you'd like to see your names like kind of in parentheses behind, because I think you have an appointment.
Yep.
And,
Right.
yeah.
Yep. I think that would be good when it says various appointments, because either it's an individual commissioner or ward,
Or GRPS
or a GRPS, or sometimes I think
Yep.
GRCC maybe.
Sure.
So I think that would bring more transparency to it, and then I think more accountability on all of us, like, yes, we have to make sure that we do that. I would say public safety has been a bit of an anomaly, knowing some of the the discovery phases that we've been having around what does these future public safety bodies look like.
Well, I hope a recommendation would be for longer term.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly, I haven't discussed that with Mr. Davis, but that certainly could be that, because now we have Mr. Lim who's going to go through that, so you can call him and tell him that, Commissioner.
Okay.
All joking aside, but no. So yes, the various appointments,
So this is an example. So you see Vital Streets here.
yes.
So like
Yeah,
this one
that's
has
what
this.
you want,
So
yeah.
Commissioner Moody's appointment, Commissioner Reppert's appointment, Grand Rapids Public Schools, Link. So all those, so something that looks like that.
Yes, and even this too, as I look at that, we've got Link who has a new executive director, we've got the Urban League who has a new executive director, so these ones, we probably should do some outreach, because we know that there's been some change, and we know that transitions, I'm going through a transition of 6 months into a new role, and there's lots of things that maybe don't come up to the top, but I'm happy to reach out to those two individuals, both at Link and Urban League. So yeah, what that looks like, City Clerk, that is, I
that's
think,
it.
very helpful.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. So could we transition now and talk about, which is not on this document, I believe, but the housing fund process?
I don't have anything to pull up here.
Okay,
on that, so.
that's fine, thank you. So, thank you, City Clerk was proactive and gave me a call yesterday, so I had to talk to him too. But we, gosh, it was our September 14th meeting that we approved the housing fund, which would include different representatives, some that were a city manager appointment, which could be the city manager. Each ward, we all have an individual appointment to put forth, much like we just did for participatory budgeting and also for master planning process. And there's also the 3 individuals who are able to come through via the wards on the appointment process. So I know, Commissioner, you had asked at the last meeting about is the PIP form updated to reflect that? And then Daniel said it was, sort of pushing a button. And we also talked about bringing forth that that agenda item to be able to see who's already applied, because we probably have some people who applied quite a bit early on, maybe some people who have applied since we made this, the notice. There was quite a bit of, communication to the public about doing this and excitement, and I know people reached out to a variety of us. So, one, would like to talk with each one of you about, have you all, or can we identify our ward appointments collectively? So I need to do that with Commissioner Jones. I have someone in mind. I don't know if he does. So we could get that set up, as well as identify who might have applied via our appointments process. And if we feel that maybe there have not been enough individuals, because I always think it's about, we're wanting to cast a wide net, because we identified a lot of different expertises. Is that a word? Expertise. I don't know if expertise is that, but different expertise, right? Lived experiences, finance experiences, et cetera, et cetera. So we might need to cast a little bit of a wider net, maybe do another communication. I'm sure the communications office would be able to help us with that. Or even go back to who might be on there and say, this is not going to be a fit, or, we need to identify this sort of experience. So City Clerk is working on generating that list for us.
We have, from what I can tell, because I don't usually get into Daniel's files
Yeah.
here, it looks like we have a Tamara Osgood, who has filed a PIF on 9/28.
Okay.
So that's the only person who has filed one since we made the
That's
announcement.
correct.
Okay.
Now, we had,
We had people before.
from what I can tell, we had a affordable housing before, but I don't think there was anything to go along with that. So I think it looks like, this looks like from appointments looks like PIFs from like 2018, 2019.
That's
Okay.
the first round of.
Yeah, so like
people.
Gert Kroom was put in, Allison Lutz, Kevin Flory, Patricia Turner, Victor Vasquez. So, so that kind of stuff was there from before.
before.
When there was,
Okay.
I think it would still be good to see that list from before collectively. You know, obviously, some people may have moved. I think, you know, in talking to the mayor, and I think this body really wanting the individuals to be from Grand Rapids. I think you and she had a conversation about that as well, Commissioner. And so, you know, some people may have moved, some of those considerations. But I do think since that it was back in 2018 and 2019, and assuming we have active emails, some sort of general communication to individuals. I don't know if we'd want to invite them to reapply, to say, you know, we've opened back up, it's been so much time, we need to have something new. But, so I don't think we need to decide that in this meeting today, but I do know in talking with the mayor, and I think all of us, knowing that this is a priority, is to have this body really be identified by the end of the year. So that we can say, okay, we're going to be ready to go. So that would be what are our appointments for the individual wards. I think city manager and mayor, you know, are fine there with identifying those individuals and or, you know, themselves. And then the 3 that would come through appointments.
Yeah.
Because obviously
I think
that
it's
would take some
5.
vetting.
I think it's 5 come through appointments.
Oh, 5, thank you.
I think, yeah.
Oh, well, this, Ms. Osgood lives in Gowan, so
Okay,
Yeah.
she's a realtor, so.
okay,
So anywho, let me look at her PIF a minute. So-
okay, thank you. Doing the work right in the meeting. So, but if, city clerk, if you can send us that list of who has been, and if it does need to wait for Daniel to come back, that's fine, but from 2018 and 2019, knowing that this is really, I would say, one of the number one issues that people in our community reach out to regarding housing, affordable housing, addressing the spectrum of housing and homelessness.
Yep.
You know, if we've got people who are interested, maybe it's not this body, but, you know, obviously mobile GR, transportation and housing go hand in hand. How do we, maybe there's somebody who might not be a fit, but could we bring them on to mobility?
Yep.
Or mobile GR? You know, is there somebody who, you know, I mean, I don't know. I don't need to give a bunch of other examples, but that's one example to say, we've got people who said they were interested. And so how do we bring them forth to identify some sort of service with the city of Grand Rapids? So I'm seeing shaking of heads. I'll take that as a consensus on this point. And also, if we can add specifically, and it can be a sub-item of item number 4, city clerk, but the housing trust fund on our agenda moving forward, that will bring, I think, accountability to all of us to remember to
Get it
keep
done.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
At the
I
top
just want
of-
to make sure, so we've
Sure.
had the Affordable Housing Fund
Mm-hmm.
Board, and this is the trust fund board. Is it do we want to name it exactly? So it doesn't differentiate from what we had before, or is it an extension of what we had before?
We revamped it. I think to my knowledge, and Mr. DeLong isn't in the room, but to my knowledge, we need to call it a trust fund board.
Okay, so we should really
We turn it on.
have it as what this is,
Yeah,
rather
I
than
think so.
the old Affordable Housing Fund.
Yep, I think so. I think that's something that we learned in the process of developing it, is that that's a more accurate terminology for what we set up.
Okay. We'll make sure we clarify that too when we put it on the web, and I think there's a holding place there for now, and it just has more information to come.
Okay.
But we need to get that all squared away.
Well, thanks. This is the longest committee on appointments we've had in some time. But we have some of these items that we are working on, so I appreciate all the updates on the project management, city clerk, and colleagues talking specifically about this housing fund. We're gonna have our mid-year review, the first week of November, and so I think, you know, I just want to be prepared for that conversation and know that as we look at the end of the year, how we can activate that body on this very important issue. Okay. Any other business, colleagues, under item number 4? All right, we're adjourned.
All right, good morning, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order here at 8:30. Excuse me. First item on the agenda this morning is a resolution authorizing a professional services agreement with Gallagher Westfall Group Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $15,600.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Deputy Chief Reifenberg, I see, meandering up here. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Morning, Commissioners, members of the Fiscal Committee. Yeah, before you use a resolution authorizing professional service agreement with the Gallagher Westfall Group not to exceed $15,600. This is part of our budget, is the Leadership Institute, which is a 4-week course that we send future leaders of the Grand Rapids Police Department along with area law enforcement from around the state. And the Westfall Group comes in for a full week. And their main topics are leadership and mastering performance management phases 1, 2, and 3. Really get into a lot of leadership training along with liability training for the city.
All right, colleagues, any questions for DC? All right, hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Second item is a resolution approving a professional services agreement with Robertson Research Institute not to exceed $75,000 for 3 years.
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Chief Lehman, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners and Fiscal Committee. This resolution is for a one-year agreement for $25,000 with 2 potential extensions to total $75,000. Over the last 3 years, we have worked with Dr. Robertson and his team, and they've shown very good outcomes within our organization, working with over 80 of our personnel, studying firefighters. This is the first study of its kind that's been done, and so we are kind of on the cutting edge of developing some very important information on not only sleep deprivation within the fire service, but also the impacts of the job that it has on our personnel. So we definitely recommend this resolution.
All right, very good, colleagues. Questions? All right, hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Item 3, resolution authorizing a 1-year extension and amendment to a contract with Next Steps of West Michigan for cleanliness services associated with alleys, bus stops, parks, restrooms, roadsides, and other related locations for a total not to exceed amount of $350,000.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Marquardt, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is an extension of our contract with Next Step of West Michigan for sidewalks, streets, parks, park cleanup, and bus stops. They've been working really well for us, helping us to extend our limited reach, especially in these challenging times. So we're really pleased to bring this request to you.
Very good, colleagues. Questions about this? Commissioner Sassi?
I just, thank you, Commissioner O'Connor. My question, Mr. Marquardt, is on, was it 2 months ago, we had Mr. James Hurt up here talking about it, and we asked him some questions. He did some great follow-up. What are specifically the amendments? And also, is there, obviously coming and talking about a variety of areas, is there certain areas that are being more focused on? I know we're going to go into the winter months, and so there's different challenges than we probably had in the summer. So if you could just share some of that, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, you bet. So great question. Some of the focuses will be shifting, as you had alluded to, Commissioner, specifically around sidewalk clearing and snow removal. That will be a part of Mobile GR's responsibility, and to some extent in some alleyways, they may be supporting some of Public Works' work as well. Within the Parks and Recreation, world, they'll likely continue to do what they have been doing over the spring and summer months, which is trash removal and just general trash pickup within our park spaces to ensure that they look clean and are usable to the general public on an ongoing basis.
Okay. And I know one of the other pieces was being able to obviously not provide the service, but, working with an organization that was going to have a bit of a maximizing effect by next step working with individuals who might be experiencing, homelessness or just maybe being unstably housed. And so, like I said, Mr. Hurt gave an update at that point, but I think as we continue to look at this contract, if there's more stories about what is that maximizing effect to the people that are being employed, would just be great to share. And so I know we're going to go into our mid-year review coming in November, but I think this potentially is a really good story to share about how we can get city services that we need, but it's also impacting individuals who are living in the city.
I would be happy to relay that to him, and we can provide you with that update. I can say anecdotally on our own, from those that we've been intersecting with that are helping us with some of our park work, they are so incredibly grateful for this work experience, having been through some of the challenges that they have been through personally. And I got to be honest, they're the right people to be helping us in these really difficult situations.
And it'd be interesting to know, as many, I'm sure, here on this dais and other businesses have had challenges identifying individuals to do, work as sort of, I would say, at an entry point in the labor market. It'd be interesting to know if there's any challenges with that as we look to expand this contract. So,
Very good.
thank you.
Commissioner Moody, any questions? One question, I guess, as we expand the opportunities for this, how do the services get dispatched and prioritized? Understanding a variety of neighborhood associations within the First Ward having reached out to the commissioners about challenges, things that they need that are outside the DDA boundaries, so we don't have ambassadors to help. And obviously, some of these services kind of mirror what the ambassadors do. So is there a way in which a neighborhood association or a business association could request services be performed in a district?
I think that would be completely reasonable, Commissioner O'Connor. The way in which we approach this work is that we first begin by identifying those gaps that we each have within our own departments and using that as a starting point to identify where those service needs are most critical. But certainly backfilling with some support from all of you as representatives of the residents is one way in which we can layer on top of that.
Yeah, I'd just be interested to have some sort of point of contact for folks like just talking with folks in Burton Heights or on Bridge Street or West Grand. Like there's certainly things that come up that we know that there's not a dedicated funding stream to take advantage of or to use, but if there is trash or some graffiti or something that could be assisted, like if creating some sort of communication path to say this is how can we get some help to take care of this?
Absolutely. I'll work with Mr. Hurt and others within the departments to streamline that communication. Our hope and our goal is to make this as seamless as possible for the residents using these spaces.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4, resolution recognizing Hearts of Hope Dog Rescue as a local civic organization.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Mr. Stroud?
Thank you. Our office typically reviews these to make sure that they comply with the statutory requirements. It looks like we do have a representative here. If you have any questions on this, we did follow up and check with the Department of Labor and Economic Growth to make sure that the nonprofit status is all up to date. Cross-referenced the statute and did our due diligence. And we present this to you for approval so that this charitable organization can make fundraising efforts here in our city.
Very good. Anything you'd like to add?
No, I don't want to take up any more time than necessary. It looks like we got it under control.
All right, very good.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs. All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Item 5, resolution authorizing payment to Kent County Drain Commissioner 2022 maintenance assessments for Knapp's Corners Drain for a total not to exceed amount of $225,000.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Greener, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. What you have in front of you is as was just stated, not to exceed of $225,000 for maintenance at the Knapp's Corner Station. The good news with this is we are we're in negotiations to actually resolve this issue. So while this may not be the last time we come in for money on this maintenance agreement, we are pushing towards a solution. I'm very optimistic that this should be heading towards a close.
Very good. Colleagues, questions?
Great to hear.
Good job.
Absolutely. All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Item 6, resolution authorizing a memorandum of understanding with the West Michigan Trails and Greenways Coalition for non-motorized trail fund development.
So moved. Support.
All right, moved and supported. Mr. Margaret, welcome back.
Good morning again. This is a resolution entertaining consideration of an agreement between the City of Grand Rapids, Parks and Recreation Department specifically, and West Michigan Trails and Greenways. This is for the design and construction of the last remaining connecting piece of the River Edges Trail from Leonard Street to Ann Street, and from there on up through Riverside Park into the White Pine Trail. This is John Morrison, the Executive Director of West Michigan Trails and Greenways. He'll be spearheading this effort of fund development, of which approximately $3 million will be privately raised to support this approximately $6 million project. So a significant lift. We're really pleased to have this organization alongside as a partner in this work, and really want this agreement in place to solidify the importance of this project and the work that they'll be doing on our behalf.
Very good. Anything you'd like to add, sir?
This is an important project to connect the city and to the regional trail network to the north, and also to connect that area to the city. And this missing gap really should be closed, and we're pleased to be working with the city of Grand Rapids to do the private fundraising.
Awesome. Colleagues, any questions?
I'd just add, glad to see this. I think as we need to continue to spur development on our Plainfield corridor, just having more access points and, maybe just spurring more of that activity from an economic development side. So, and we just know that through the pandemic, many people have been looking for ways to, this past week was World Mental Health Awareness Day, and I know that many people have found being outside and connecting on our trail system has been absolutely helpful to them staying in a good space during this pandemic. So thank you for your work.
Certainly.
All right, no further questions. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sirs. Item 7, resolution approving an agreement with the Interurban Transit Partnership, the Rapid, for Mobile GR to purchase 35 transit stop shelters through the Rapid in the amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Kimura, good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners. Appropriate rainy day to be briefing you on bus shelters, but as the agreement said, this resolution seeks your approval to purchase 35 shelters at a cost not to exceed $250,000 through the Rapid. The reason we'd like to go through the Rapid is to provide some consistency in what the infrastructure looks like across the entire network, as well as simplify maintenance and parts down the road. The shelters, 13 of them in Ward 1, 7 in Ward 2, and 15 in Ward 3, so pretty equal distribution, and 19 of them in neighborhoods of focus. And all the equipment should be purchased by next summer with the goal of installing them by the end of September.
Excellent. Colleagues, questions for Mr. Kimura?
I just have one question. I know I saw, I think it was outside of Van Andel Arena during Art Prize, a shelter, or it looked like a shelter. Is it, so they all will be the same sort of style in each ward, or?
There's different models. They're all going to be from the same company, which is Toller Manufacturing, but depending on the space, they're going to be, a full 3-sided shelter. Some places may just be a cantilever. I think the one that you're talking about, Van Andel, is that it's got like some wooden trim, and so that one was a little bit unique, and because of the location with Van Andel, and DGRI led the purchase of that one.
It's fancy. Thank you.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
What was the decision to put the shelters by transit stops?
So we're working with the Rapid, and this is an ongoing process. So I'd say today's purchase is not the final listing, but the things we look at when determining which stops are in need of a shelter is we primarily look at the ridership numbers to make sure there's adequate ridership. And we also look at where it is, how much space we have available, whether a shelter will block the line of sight for traffic. So there's just different planning factors that go in.
Thank you.
All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
All right, thank
sir.
you.
Item 8, resolution authorizing payment to Cayenta Utilities, CU, virtual conference and classroom training sessions for a single organization-wide fee in the amount not to exceed $10,000.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Jernberg, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. How are you today?
Good.
What you have in front of you today is a resolution authorizing payment to county utilities. In light of the pandemic, a lot of our training opportunities have moved to a virtual format. This particular annual conference is now virtual, which offers classroom opportunities for our utility business office staff. It's unlimited in terms of the number of attendees. For our business office staff, the intent is that they're going to go through these classroom sessions, gain the necessary knowledge, and then also, as necessary, be able to assist in training our 311 staff once this session is completed.
Very good. Colleagues, questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Item 9 is a resolution authorizing bid list for October 12, 2021.
So moved.
Moved and supported. Ms. Golden, anything important of note that you'd like to add?
No.
All right. Colleagues, any questions about any of these items?
No.
All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 10 is our purchasing forecast report for October 12, 2021. Questions?
No.
All right, hearing none, that report will be received and filed. Item 11, warrant report, September 15, 2021 through September 28, 2021. Mr. Comptroller, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. So for the period referenced there, the city released cash payments totaling approximately $25.3 million, which includes approximately $4.7 million for our employee payroll expense and just over $165,000 for income tax warrants. In terms of quantity, that translated to 284 income tax refunds being issued and 1,275 accounts payable checks being issued. And the tables on the following 3 pages contain all the details of the checks and payments issued exceeding the amount of $20,000.
Very good. Colleagues, questions for the Comptroller? Hearing none, that report will be received and filed. Item 12, Treasurer's Report for period September 11, 2021 through September 24, 2021.
Good morning, Commissioners. With our report today, we're just really still continuing to highlight the fact that with issues with vaccinations and now having a little bit of a surge in Michigan and other areas, we can't stress the importance of those vaccinations and having our population safe. What we're looking at too is inflation and transitory pricing. I think if you are walking that aisles of the grocery store, Meijer, Sam's Club, Costco, you're finding that there are products that are not on the shelves. There's a lot of fear that hits people, just like we did at the start of the pandemic, where everyone was purchasing toilet paper. We're finding the same thing today. You'll have different things, runs on different things. Really, if we continue to have the purchases like we normally do in our day-to-day lives, we're not going to have those stock out issues unless there's a disruption in a supply chain. So really what we're doing is focusing on really what the federal government's talking about. They're talking about this being transitory, but we also hear that there's other issues that might be popping up. Commissioner O'Connor running a business, Commissioner Moody, you're seeing people that are demanding higher wages, $15 an hour for a minimum, and coming back into the workforce. What they value to be back in the workforce, they're now demanding a higher pay. Well, and we know that even in the restaurant industry, your margins are slim. So if pay is going up, that means prices are going up. And if now your inputs for your different products are also going up, inflation is going to be more across the board. We're only seeing it right now in pocketed areas. My concern is that we'll see inflation running longer than the Fed's predicting. They're fine with 2% or higher before they're going to do any more easing. And they're talking about that already. I think what's going to stall us out is if inflation runs hot longer than expected. That's what Levi Bolt and I discuss quite frequently, because there are other investments that we can make in Treasury inflation protected securities that is an option for us to purchase, that if inflation does run hot, that means we're actually using an investment tool that's going to give us a higher rate of return. That's something that when you have an overall portfolio, just like with a pension, you invest in lots of areas of the economy and structure your portfolio. And so this is what we're doing with part of our money. The other thing that we've really actively done, and you'll see this in future fiscal committee, is that we are expanding our MWBE investment brokers which again, this is what we do when we have a slowdown, is we look at how we can improve our operations, how we can improve our investment guidelines and portfolio, and really focus on the internal structure that we have. It's really easy when interest rates are 5% to have fun going out and investing and getting the best you can for the city. It's in times of low interest rates that we have to focus internally. And so with our portfolio today, we actually are earning 1.32%. So we are outperforming what other people in the market are getting, because in our fixed income world, those investments are usually less than 50 basis points. So we're actually hopefully bridging this gap. So as we see the economy turn around, we'll eventually be restructuring our portfolio at a little bit higher interest earnings as we go. So we gave you a chart on that as well to show you where the 10-year Treasury yields are. So they are coming back, but it's probably going to still take a little bit more time. So with that, I have our report for this period.
Very good. Colleagues, questions for the treasurer? All right, hearing none, that report will be received and filed, and we'll adjourn the meeting here at 8:50. Thank you, everyone.
Morning, everyone. It was you today, Commissioner Jones. Kind of sneaking in at the end. Commissioner Lanier and I are here ready to go. All right, well, we'll call this Community Development Committee meeting to order. We've got 8 items in front of us today. The first is a resolution awarding a contract with the National Fitness Campaign, LLC, for an outdoor fitness court at Ottawa Hills Park in the amount of $85,765.
I see fit to approve that. To move it, rather.
Support. He threw me off. I didn't even know what to say.
I love it. I love it. I see fit.
I see fit. Yeah, that was good.
Nicely done, Commissioner. Good morning. This item was before you on September 28th to accept a grant award from the National Fitness Campaign for this new amenity that we are installing in the 3rd Ward at Ottawa Hills Park. This agenda item today is to simply purchase the equipment in anticipation of a spring installation. So we're buying the equipment with this approval today and getting ourselves prepared for that spring installation. So super excited about this project. It's going to be a nice amenity to round out this brand new park.
Yeah. Great. I was just telling Commissioner Lanier, I visited the park with my son last week. We had lunch there. Any questions, colleagues? None from Joe.
Just one quick one. Good morning. Just curious to know the location of, it's a really good setup. The equipment looks really user-friendly. I was curious to know, because of its size, about where, and maybe it was in there and I just missed it, but about where on the campus will the park be, the fitness park be located?
Yeah, great question, Commissioner Lanier. As I understand it, the fitness court location will be at the south end of the park space that has just been newly developed. So we've got the playground kind of in the center of that park space, old basketball court on the south end. It's going to be at about that location.
Okay, will it be visible from like the track and all those other things that are also on the campus kind of nearby? I know there are a lot of people kind of utilize that space, so it would be great if it was visible enough for people to say, oh, that's over there now.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it will be visible, and you raise a good point. Maybe we ought to work with GRPS too on some signage to ensure that there's good understanding of what's available.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's great. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Carries. Thank you, David. Next is a resolution approving preliminary design phase services with Fishbeck, Thompson, Carr, and Huber for the corrosion control treatment study, Phase 3, amount of $598,900 with total not to exceed amount being $628,900.
Support.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
What you have in front of you today, excuse me, is a resolution authorizing Phase 3 of a corrosion control study. So what a corrosion control study is it's taking a look at the chemicals that we used essentially to limit the impacts of lead and copper in the service lines and the drinking water. So back 2018, we met with Eagle, and Eagle was concerned with the pH of our raw water in Lake Michigan, as well as how our current corrosion control chemicals were working with it. So we started our Phase 1 then. We've completed Phase 1. We're waiting on the finalization of Phase 2 report. Phase 3 involves actually harvesting of lead service lines from the distribution system and then putting them into what they call a pipe loop rig, which will be out at our filtration plant, where we're going to look at multiple different chemicals as well as dosage rates of those corrosion control chemicals to see which ones basically enhance with the current pH that we're dealing with, which ones enhance our coverage and our effectiveness of our corrosion control chemicals. Right now, we are not in an action level of any stretch of the imagination. We're under 10 parts per billion for our 90th percentile reporting to the state of Michigan. The action level is up at 15. You may have read a little bit about Benton Harbor's issues, where they're having 50 times the allowable lead showing up in some of their samples down there. We're nowhere as close to that, but we are way in front of where they're at in terms of the testing and stuff like that. So this is just our part, making sure that the corrosion control chemicals we use, we stay out in front of it with the water that we're, with the pH and the raw water that we have, to ensure that it's a safe product for our customers to drink and use.
Okay. Interesting. Any questions about that? So basically, you take an old one out of a home and go test,
So we have-
run a loop on it.
We have 3 rigs out there, and each rig uses 4 sections. I believe it's either 3 or 4 foot long lead pipe sections. And the current chemicals that we've been treating, and I don't want to get too technical on it because I could bore you to death, but we've done such a good job with how we've been treating things that there's a really, to be able to effectively say that our lead levels are down or low, there has to be the right balance of pH, orthophosphate or corrosion control chemicals, as well as the chlorine residual in the water. When those work together, a hard scale will form on the inside of these pipes. So what we're trying to look at is to make sure any new chemicals that we may consider in the future, if we were to try that, how does that keep that lead scale or that hard scale inside of that pipe to keep it from flaking off and showing up in the drinking water? This study's essentially a 2 to 3 year study. So this is going to take some time. We're going to look at it. We're going to change, like I said, multiple dosage rates. But like I said, there's 3 different rigs with multiple dosage rates and multiple chemicals that will be analyzed.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for that explanation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It carries. Thank you. Next is a resolution awarding a contract with Pride Builders Group LLC for improvements to Riverside Park in the amount of $681,381, with total not to exceed amount being $985,000.
I take great pride in moving that.
This is fantastic. Good morning again.
Try to boost our numbers of who attends this committee meeting.
Yes,
here.
yes. Really pleased to be bringing this contract award in front of you today. This contract includes some really great new park amenities for Riverside Park, including a new picnic shelter, existing restroom building renovations, and Grand Rapids' very first accessible kayak launch. These renovations are taking place up in the lagoon area of the park in normal times, and we'll get back into this hopefully next year. We run the 8th grade paddle experiences up in this location. So having a shelter space for them to gather on rainy days in the spring is really important, and having good, clean restroom facilities available as well is equally as important. So we're very excited about this project work.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Any questions? I got to check out my first accessible kayak launch down in Allegan, Michigan. They have one there on the Kalamazoo River. It's pretty cool. It was very easy to navigate. So those are cool.
Definitely.
Wonderful. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It carries. Thank you, David. Next is a resolution approving an easement to Consumers Energy at 724 Wealthy Street Southwest and at 567 Market Avenue Southwest for nominal consideration of $1.
Support.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
So we have been working with Consumers Energy on this project that they would like to undertake, which includes installing electrical facilities and conduits underneath the Oxford Trail Bridge, as well as adjacent to the Oxford Trail pathway itself. So the item that's before you grants those easements. Just a little bit about what they're doing. This will provide redundancy for power service to various critical facilities, including our Wealthy Street Stormwater Pump Station, Market Avenue Pump Station, and also the Market Avenue Stormwater Pump Station. So that's good news from the city's end. This will also replace an existing underwater electric utility crossing under the Grand River that's integral to our sanitary sewer pipe back from 1928. So one of the provisions of this is that once that is decommissioned, they will release that easement. So since a portion of the funding for the Oxford Trail Path acquisition and construction involved MDNR Trust Fund grants, we worked with MDNR Trust Fund staff to seek their approval, and they have given that. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but request your approval of this resolution.
Great. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It carries. Next is a resolution awarding a professional service agreement with Owen Ames Kimball Company for pre-construction services in the amount of $68,450 and design phase services with Tower Pinkster Titus Associates Incorporated for total authorized expenditures not to exceed $1,115,583.
I'll move it.
Support.
So the engineering department's been working with the Grand Rapids Public Museum on additions and renovations that they're planning to their facility. The first phase that's being considered today includes enhancements to their outdoor exhibit space. So an event space, hands-on learning stations, river access, and educational opportunities along with boardwalks, trails, and signage. The total estimated project cost for phase one is $7.5 million. So we recommended that given the complexity of this project, the best delivery approach would be to utilize the construction manager's services as they can assist in refining project cost and scope as we move through the design phases and keep us within the identified budget. So we went through a qualification-based selection process, and the evaluation team selected Owens Ames Kimball, or OAK, as the most qualified firm. So this agreement that's before you is for the pre-construction phase services for that fee of $68,450, which takes us up to the point of bidding. At that point, and once design and financing are in place, we'll come back for a construction management agreement contract for you that'll include soliciting bids and awarding subcontracts and things to manage basically the project through completion. One, I think item worth noting, the OAK is partnering with a firm called Inclusive Outcomes LLC to develop a project-specific equity plan for the museum project. So the reason the total authorization is $1,115,583 is that also rolls in the costs of Tower Pinkster to perform the schematic and final design phases. So they'll be doing that under our term agreement, but we're requesting your authorization of that amount, and the financing will come from the museum.
Great. Any questions about that? No? That's really helpful. I'm excited to see this get started, and I appreciate their approach that they described to us in the presentations that they've made to us. All those in favor say aye. Aye. It carries. Next is a resolution approving a construction agreement and accepting a public utilities easement for GLC spec development.
So moved.
Support.
So this is an industrial planned unit development located in Walker, south of 4 Mile, east of Hendershot Avenue, where the developer is seeking to extend a 12-inch public water main to the site. So requesting your approval of our standard construction agreement here, as well as the easement that will cover the utility.
Any questions about this? All those in favor say aye. Aye. It carries. Next is a resolution approving an agreement between the City of Grand Rapids and the Michigan Department of Transportation and authorizing expenditures of $300,000 in connection with the Metropolitan Traffic Signal Optimization Project.
Move it.
Support.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Josh.
This morning we have a resolution. So as a reminder, the city and the Mobile GR Department is the implementing agency for the region's traffic signal system. With this grant from Michigan Department of Transportation, this would be phase 16 of the signal optimization program. So we've been very successful in getting congestion mitigation and air quality funding to support those efforts. There is an attachment that includes all of the intersections. They're not just in the city of Grand Rapids, they are also for some of our regional partner agencies. The total federal grant is $240,000, and we have $60,000 in local match that's programmed in the budget through the Vital Streets program.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Any questions? No? All right. And lastly, I should say all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It carries. And lastly, a resolution revoking obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate 3-12-001 at 253 Prospect Northeast.
I'll move it.
Support.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. So this original Oprah exemption was approved in November of 2011, and the project was successfully completed and invested more than $2 million in 22 new residential apartments. In February of 2018, the commission also approved a transfer to the current owner, which is Elm Street Properties, or Enterprises, I'm sorry. Elm Street Enterprises is now filing a condominium documentation to transfer those into owner-occupied residential condominiums, and because of that, they no longer qualify for the exemption.
Sure.
So the current exemption is set to run through December of '24. So this ends a little earlier, and therefore we would, the tax would be, the taxes collected would be 100% on ad valorem beginning in 2022.
Okay. Any questions about this? Go ahead, Commissioner Lanier.
Yeah, just a quick one. I don't think I've experienced this since being on the commission, so I was just curious to know, like, what the process is for developers who are converting from rental to condo. Just so that I can be a little bit more aware of
In
that.
this case, and it's a good question. So essentially, a notice was filed with the assessor's office, who noted the Oprah exemption, notified our office, and then we've got to today.
Okay.
So they filed a application, if you will, from the assessors, and we kind of coordinated internally on that and brought us to today's revocation.
Okay. And then what about the residents there? Like, what's the process for that? Is there, do they have to vote? Because now, and what happens to the people who currently live there? Do they automatically get first right or refusal?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we can't, we can only facilitate the process
Sure.
of the transfer or the revocation. Can't really influence per se. We've given notice, we might talk to them, but that's really up to the property owner of the individual property to decide how that's going to take place.
Okay.
So we've also been in contact with the owner to make sure that they know that this is happening. So, which Jeremiah has done and knows that that's happening. And in terms of the priority, Jeremiah's right, that's up to the owner. But everybody there, whatever their lease terms are for their rental unit,
They have to honor.
they have to honor until they do
Sure.
the conversion.
Okay.
So then it's a similar process in terms of the conversion that's been done in other units. So, Boardwalk condominiums used to be the Boardwalk.
Right.
They were all rentals.
Yeah.
So, and gradually they transitioned over time into condominiums.
Okay.
So basically this is a process of becoming for sale units.
I see.
Okay, so we know that all the residents are aware of the change then.
We don't know that.
Okay.
We know the owner is aware. So,
Well, wouldn't this have come from the owner?
No.
Again, forgive my ignorance, I'm just trying to figure it out. Who makes the decision to convert someone else's property from rental to condos if it isn't the owner?
the owner, so the owner knows that they're converting the property to condos. They've made that decision.
Who is the "they" that you're referring to then?
The owner knows that the owner is converting.
Oh,
to-
okay, themselves, okay, mm-hmm.
What we wanted to make sure of was that the owner knew that act then caused
Triggered
us
this.
to revoke
Yeah.
the certificate.
Sure, yeah.
So that was our role, making sure
Yeah.
they knew, the owner knew that we, the city, were going to revoke the certificate,
Because
Sure.
their expenses will change.
Yeah,
for the
absolutely,
next-
yeah, because that could,
which they should have known anyway.
Right.
yeah.
Probably
Yeah, but
already
it could
making
make or break whether they continue forward with their plan, knowing that this is a financial change. So then, so I get the owner and what's happening with the owner. I'm wondering more about those who currently live there. We're in the middle of a housing crisis, and so, and I'm all for ownership, but I'm just trying to make sure that the people who, like, we notify for so many other reasons. We notice neighbors for a lot of different reasons, for public hearings and for other purposes. So I'm just curious to know if it isn't a requirement, can that be something that we do as a courtesy, is to inform the people who reside there? Because what we wouldn't want is this to all unfold and the residents to be unaware until the month before their lease is up and the owner says, oh, they're condo now, you either buy or leave. And, that could be 6 months from now, it could be 2 months from now, it could be next week, I don't know. But it would be great if there was some way for us as the institution who has, responsibility over communities to make sure that that is happening, I guess, so maybe it's a courtesy, kind of like it is to the owner, letting them know about the revocation, but just to kind of notify the residents that currently reside there.
We can check with the owner to ensure that they've made that notification.
Okay,
I think
thank
it's-
you.
I think it's the owner's responsibility.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because they have the relationship with their tenants. who
Absolutely.
hold the
And
lease.
agreements, yeah.
So we
Yeah.
can, we can request that the owner does it and see if they have.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for all of that information. All those in favor say aye. Aye. It carries. That's it. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
right. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, good morning. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started today with our committee of the whole meeting. Commissioners, we have a number of action items before us, and then we have an update on our wellness program. This is the update we're supposed to have last time that we pushed off to this week. City Attorney just confirming we do not have any executive sessions today. So we'll finish up COW, and then we have Economic Development Project Team at 12:30. That will be up here in the chambers, and then our evening meeting tonight. So we'll go ahead and get started with our first action item. And this is a resolution to adopt the City Commission meeting schedule. Can I get a motion?
Move.
Support. All right, moved and supported. City Clerk, anything to add? It's pretty straightforward.
It is just to highlight the month of May. So we're planning on 3 evening meetings in the month of May. So May 10th would be a regular meeting. May 17th would be a public hearing on the budget, and then May 24th would be a regular meeting day with a budget adoption on that day. And then we'll have a resolution coming out later for special meetings for workshops and the like. They'll come out later.
Okay, great, thanks. And so it'll just be a standalone public hearing to give people a chance to weigh in on the budget.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Commissioners, Commissioner Lanier?
Yes, first I'd like to say thank you for scheduling that on a Tuesday. City Manager, I'm giving you eye contact. Thank you.
Thank you, and I will add my thanks to have the schedule completed this early so that we can get it on our schedule.
That's
so I know
right. That was the other piece to my comment, is to thank you for bringing it forth so early. I do have a question about, I know we were very intentional for a few years about avoiding the first day of school, especially with GRPS. This is such a crazy day for parents and staff members who are parents and commissioners who are parents. So I don't know, I'm guessing that the latter date in August may be that. So just wanted to share that because that was something we were intentional about before. We had made some modifications around spring break as well so that families wouldn't have that conflict. And just wanted to remind you that if we can look at that, that would be great.
That's a good point, Commissioner. I wonder if we could, in August, move up the 23rd meeting to the 16th and we could do back-to-back meetings in August, and then in addition, well.
Mayor, perhaps we should just confirm the school calendar, and we can do that prior to the end of the meeting today and come back to that item, if that's okay.
Yeah, and
that way we're doing it with some certainty.
Yeah, the bad news is that they typically don't approve their school year calendar this early. But they probably would have a general idea, GRPS with them being the largest in the area. They may have a general idea of when it would be, but they typically don't finalize it early.
Well, then in that case, there's no way we would be able to affirm that by the end
Yeah, I
of the
think
meeting.
it's usually that the week that you're describing, Mary, is typically the week in the last couple years for them. So just wanted to mention it. It could be something that could be amended
Later
by the
on.
end of the year
Yep.
or something like that, as they may have their calendars developed by then.
I'll stay in contact with Mr. Helmholt to figure that out.
And Commissioner, that's a good point. And we can always change the schedule.
Yeah, we've
Have
done
it
it.
come back and do an amendment, like early next year.
We
or
can
in the
always
spring.
we can always change a meeting day as long as it's fully noticed. And we've had to cancel meetings before. As long as it's noticed, we're fine.
Okay. All right. Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to a resolution approving the request from the Urban Institute of Contemporary Arts, or UICA as we know it, for a new Class C liquor license located at 17 Pearl Street Northwest. So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. City Clerk, anything to add on this item?
The only thing is, there was a question, if they had one before, they did not. It was, their caterers who use the facility would have the liquor license. So this would be, for them to hold a liquor license, kind of like the museum and the zoo all have those licenses to hold events.
Sorry about that, City Clerk. Thank you for that. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to a COVID special event resolution. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Mr. Canfield, do you want to tell us about this? No?
He's been in this rodeo.
No?
If we can get Lou's mic on, please.
Testing.
There we
Okay,
go.
yes.
There we
Check.
go.
1, 2, 3. All right. Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. The resolution before you would reauthorize social zones under their current framework through November 1, 2022. And the reason this is classified as a special event is because there is an existing section, actually chapter within the city code that provides some authorities that we've been able to use to establish social zones during the pandemic. This item is also related to the next one on the agenda, which would extend temporary uses on private property and the flexibility that the city has allowed there through that same date. Staff are bringing this forward now to provide clarity for businesses as they continue to navigate the economic impacts of the pandemic, since we're closing in on the current expiration date of November 1, 2021. As you know, the pandemic continues to cause significant economic disruption. Indoor restaurant and bar spaces were only restored to 100% indoor occupancy 3.5 months ago. And hospitality industry employment is still about 12% down from its pre-pandemic level. Social zones have helped to maintain pedestrian traffic and business activity. To date, we have approximately 24 seating areas that have been permitted. Many of them are within the 7 social district refreshment areas, and at least 60 local businesses have been issued permits to sell alcoholic beverages within those districts. That's the largest number by nearly double for any Michigan municipality. While the resolution would continue the authority to permit the zones, it's not prescriptive in terms of locations, and some of its other provisions are flexible. So we want you to be aware that some of the existing zones will be adjusted as we approach the winter months, and some will be removed, and that is being done in collaboration with and typically at the request of nearby businesses. In addition to supporting local businesses, the continuation of the zones into next year is also a valuable opportunity to evaluate their benefits during a waning and hopefully ending pandemic. And this is especially relevant to efforts by the city and our partners to solidify our reputation as a 4-season outdoor city. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Great, thank you, Lou, and appreciate all your work on all of our efforts related to COVID. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, thank you. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to a resolution to extend a city commission policy allowing certain outdoor temporary uses and structures on private property, and this will go through November 1st of 2022. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. We have our planning director, Ms. Turkelson, here to tell us about this item.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, Commission. Mr. Canfield did a good job of summarizing a lot of my item. The reasons for the extension are pretty much the same. We want to provide businesses with a certainty through the next year, and also this policy specific to private property provides planning staff with the authority to allow for certain uses that have not been anticipated by the zoning ordinance. So things like COVID isolation centers and vaccine testing and COVID testing and vaccine drive-through sites. So it provides us with significant flexibility. Any permits that have been pulled thus far, which is approximately 114 over the past year and a half, will automatically extend through this date, through the November 1st, 2022, with the exception of if systems were dismantled that do require electrical permits, there might be some permits like electrical or mechanical systems that would need to be pulled, and the building department is aware of that and going to be working with businesses as needed. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, next that will take us to a resolution approving a revised brownfield plan amendment for 739 4th Street LLC redevelopment project located at the same address, which is 739 4th Street Northwest. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. We have our Economic Development Director here with us today. Commissioner, this is a project we've heard about in our Economic Development Project team, as well as we had a public hearing related to this item. So, Mr. Gracia, anything to add?
Nope, just a summary. This is the requesting the reimbursement of approximately $697,000 for those brownfield eligible activities over a 25-year period.
All right, Commissioners, any questions or comments? Commissioners from the First Ward, any comments on this item?
Excited to get to this point.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. It has been a long time coming. You read my mind, Commissioner. All right, with that, we'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. And then our sixth item, Commissioners, it's a companion item. So this is a resolution approving an 11-year obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate pursuant to PA 146 of 2000 for the same project related over at 739 4th Street Northwest, and it's 739 4th Street LLC. Can I get a motion?
Moved.
Support.
All right, Mr. Gracia, anything to add?
Just to summarize, this is 11-year OPRA pursuant to the City Commission policy, and it gets that extra year because it is at least 25% of those Type B apartments, which are not currently in the area.
Great. Commissioners, questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, Commissioners, next, that will take us to our seventh item today, and that is a resolution approving the renaming of Franklin Street as Martin Luther King Jr. Street from Oakland Avenue to the east city limits, as well as the renaming of Granville Avenue as Cesar Chavez Avenue from the west city limits, or Clyde Park Avenue, to Weston Street. The commemorative designation of Martin Luther King Jr. Street as Franklin Street, the commemorative designation of Cesar Chavez Avenue as Granville Avenue, the removal of the commemorative designation of Division Avenue from 28th Street to Coldbrook Street as Martin Luther King Jr. Way, and the removal of the commemorative designation of Granville Avenue from Franklin Street to Wealthy Street. So kind of a mouthful. So first I'll ask for a motion.
So moved.
All right, moved and supported, so we'll turn it over to our city engineer, Mr. Berkman, to tell us about this item. We do have some guests in the audience, and I would welcome them to say a few words after Mr. Berkman, and then I'll open it up for questions or comments before we get to calling the vote on this item. So, Mr. Berkman?
All right, thank you, Mayor, and good morning, Commissioners. Yes, we were going for the longest item title with this agenda item, but as you're aware, this request was brought to the city on behalf of the Moving Ahead for Remarkable Civil Rights Heroes Committee, or MARCH, back on July 1, and you held the public hearing for this item at your last meeting on September 28th. And as Mayor Bliss mentioned, we do have the co-chairs of March with us this morning. So since there is a lot contained in this, I just wanted to reiterate for any who are listening the kind of the three key components to this, and that is to rename Franklin Street throughout the city as Martin Luther King Jr. Street, and then to commemoratively designate that street as Franklin. Similarly with Granville, to rename it as Cesar Chavez Avenue and commemoratively designate it back as Granville Avenue. And then again, to avoid confusion with the existing commemorative designations that already exist within the city, the designation of Cesar Chavez Way on Granville and the existing commemorative designation of Martin L. King Jr. Way on Division would be removed as part of this action item. So as I told you at your last meeting, the combination of this official name change as well as the commemorative designation coming in with it that March proposed is an innovative way to honor the important past and future of this street, and also it helps with the address conversion and transition for property owners and tenants along these corridors. Per the city's commission's policy on renaming streets, we've circulated this again to the city departments and various affected agencies with no objections raised. Just for a matter of the record, 41 written communications were received by the city clerk's office, 35 expressing support, 5 in opposition, and 1 not taking a position. And then of those who spoke at your public hearing on September 28th, the majority were in support of this resolution. Now, some items to point out. We've listed an effective date of February 22nd, 2022. So Tuesday, 2/22/22. That happens to be midway between MLK Day on January 17th and Cesar Chavez Day on March 31st. But that also allows for time for transition with Mobile GR's forces needing to replace upwards of 400 signs with the 2 designations. So we've allowed for a reasonable time period around that date for that final transition to occur. The resolution also contains languages that references to Franklin and or Granville be amended as necessary to the renamed streets within city policies, ordinance, and other documents, and that the renaming and new commemorative designations shall not affect any prior decisions, plans, or approvals that referenced Franklin Street or Granville. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Commissioners, any specific questions for Mr. Berkman? And if not, then I'll give some time to Lupe and Commissioner Womack to say a few words. But Commissioners, any specific questions for our city engineer? All right. So I want to thank Lupe and Commissioner Womack for your hard work and leadership in getting us to where we are today. So if you want to come up and share some remarks, we would love to have you join us and share some comments before we call for a vote. So welcome, by the way. Good to see you again.
Well, it's good to be here this morning. Thank you so very much. Buenos dias. It's going to be another wonderful day to do wonderful things. And so here we are, making history in the city of Grand Rapids. So in behalf of the March Committee, I would like to take this opportunity to remind everyone that we had everyone in mind when we proposed the renaming of these 2 streets. These 2 civil rights heroes truly made an impact all over the world. And now that impact is going to flow into the streets of Grand Rapids. So Cesar Chavez had a quote that he used to say to his followers as they were marching in their plight to make a difference for the farm workers. And he said, "We draw our strength from the very despair in which we have been forced to live. We shall endure." And so this committee, the March Committee, endured. We were able to touch many hearts and change many minds. And so for that, we are very, very thankful that we were given the opportunity and the assistance from advisors from the city to do every step right the first time so we wouldn't have to recircle and come back and redo anything. So with that, I want to thank each and every one of the city that's listening to me, the people that are here today, for the support and the encouragement that was given to the March Committee to proceed with this proposal. And to all of you who get to vote on this proposal, we thank you for having the confidence in the work that we put forth to you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Lupe. Thank you for your work and also your years of service to our community. And Commissioner Womack, another public servant before us today who worked on this initiative.
Yes, I'm Kent County Commissioner Robert Womack, live in the city of Grand Rapids, 49507 zip code. First of all, I just want to say this is probably the 3rd commission we've had to stand in front of when it comes to street naming. And for these great American leaders who were change agents, but happen to be people of color, having a chance to honor them and having a chance to come in front of a board that are really my constituents. We were all either in high school, college, or the young workforce when we would go to city commissions and just say, the city of Grand Rapids, as proud as we are of it, we can't say we're not proud of it because most of us have a choice to live here or live in other locales, and a lot of us who have traveled, as myself, have come back here to live because it's a great community. But to be among people of my age group that back then didn't have the power to help change Grand Rapids. And sometimes people think saying change means everything else had to be so bad. But it's really growth. And to see Grand Rapids have an opportunity to grow today, to see the true meaning of when we say diversity, whether it's Grand Rapids or Kent County, for that to be reflective, even in our street signs that didn't initially include people of color. Just to be here and embark upon a moment that it comes to a whole new generation, a young generation of commissioners who I feel were in that powerless position I was in our 20s and 30s. I just wanted to put that out, but as Dr. Martin Luther King said, he challenged America to live up to its true creed that all men and women are created equal, and I don't think he'd be mad that I put women in there. I'm just glad to be here and have an opportunity for you to weigh what the public has said, weigh what the importance of this, and hear your vote on it. It's great. It's been great being a co-chair with Lupe Montagny, and just hoping that unity of working together on problems that the Latinx community and African Americans share, and people of color, our Asian brothers and sisters, and ingenious Native Americans share, of having recognition for our heroes, just hoping it continues, because I've enjoyed it. I want to thank Commissioner Lanier, Yasi, Moody Jones, everybody on the board for all information, advice that you've given us, the city of Grand Rapids, Lou, making sure that we were able to give the residents the best information on what's going to happen if there's a name change in their community. That advice and us listening, I would tell other activists to please, when you want to see change, seek out information from the city, from your commissioners, because they also want to see change, but it's a process because it affects so many people. Just once again want to thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I'll open it up for questions or comments. I would love to turn first to Commissioner Lanier and Commissioner Isasi, who worked really hard on bringing this forward today and worked with communities. So, Commissioner?
We're trying to decide who's going to go first. We can't use the lady first.
Beauty before
Yeah,
age.
I'll turn to my senior commissioner.
There you go. Well, good morning, and thank you, Mayor, for this opportunity. I am grateful to have served with the Honorable Lupe Ramos Montagny and Commissioner Robert S. Womack as co-chairs for the March Committee. It has been my pleasure over the past 2 years to serve with you, and to other members of the committee, thanks for being here, and thanks for your work, Suzanne and Josh, and anybody else that I may be missing because of mask. Thank you for the time and energy that has been put into this. And I do have quite a few things to say, so bear with me, because I guess when we started this work, I didn't realize the impact that it was going to have on me. I think, generally speaking, it was just a good thing to do, and it was to finish work that had been started years before. But through the engagement process, there have been a few moments that struck me and impacted me, and one of those happened actually last week, as Commissioner Womack and I, along with Lou, were at Clark Homes, retirement homes, to talk with the residents there about the street renaming. There was this conversation about the length of Dr. King's name and writing that out, on your envelope when you're mailing something. And an elder, a senior who lives in Clark, was just saying, I have challenges writing. So we started a conversation there, and it ended with a different lady saying, who was in her 90s, saying, say Dr. King's full name. And it challenged me because I'm frequently saying MLK. And she said it's important to say his full name, Martin Luther King Jr., for those who are coming behind you. That they need to fully understand who he is and his name matters. And it was through that, through that comment, that was one of those striking moments. I think another happened at that same meeting where there was advocacy for a statue of Dr. King in the park, in the MLK Park. And as the residents learned that there are renovations underway in the park, that was another thing that kind of sparked and became apparent. And I just want to say thank you to those who spent countless years. Dr. Ramos Montani will tell you that it's been 20 plus years that she's been in the trenches doing this naming work. And so we know we have a school. We know we also have a commemorative sign of Cesar Chavez on Granville. And so, thank you for your dedication, to both of you, for your dedication and your commitment and not giving up, and recognizing that this was beyond the two of you, and that it was, and even beyond Dr. King and Cesar Chavez. This is really about what I would say community and unity and dedication and representation, which I think are all things that matter. So let me get to just these. I'll just highlight a few points in the notes that I have here. This joint effort is intentional because we know our coming together symbolizes our local unity. As Cesar Chavez is quoted, preservation of one's own culture does not require contempt or disrespect for other cultures. And I think that was another thing that was apparent throughout our sitting together and learning about, and I was kind of this neutral person, kind of, thinking about from two different vantage points and making sure that culture, because that's a question, that's a comment that I heard, from a resident on Granville, that Black people live here too. And I think the cross section of Martin Luther King Jr. and Cesar Chavez right there on Franklin and Granville, where it's currently Franklin and Granville, sends a message that this is a community for not just one community of people, but for all, because both of them stood for all in unity. And then another thing that became apparent to me was how Franklin Street got its name. And every time I've had this conversation, people were surprised by it. But Franklin Street is not named after a former president. It's named after a little boy who was baptized when he was maybe 9 or 10, and his godfather was a commissioner. And as a gift for his baptism, they named his street after little Franklin. And so there had been conversations with that family about the renaming many years ago and revisited because we wanted to honor little Franklin. And I'm not sure, how old little Franklin is now, but and when little Franklin's around. It was in 1912, I think. But that was why it was named, and that was important for people to hear and understand. And I actually think it also illuminated that if little Franklin can have a street named after him, then why not Dr. King or Cesar Chavez? Because then they let their guards down once they heard that. And through our efforts and engagement, several hundred people did sign our petitions to demonstrate their support. And we were very intentional, even despite COVID, of trying to saturate the people who were most impacted and businesses that were most impacted on both of those streets. And so we did so. We had a number of letters of support that came from organizations that also share our goal of bringing equity to the community and shares the city goal as well for that. And I want to highlight a few of those. GRCC, former Mayor George Hartwell, Hispanic Center of Western Michigan, Network 180, Seeds of Promise, the Grand Rapids Public Schools, ICCF, and Madison at Franklin Church. And I'll pause with them because they've just moved into their space on Franklin and Madison and just spent a lot of resources on their naming with Franklin included. And though that's a challenge for them, they also recognize that the impact of this street renaming was worth the sacrifice of the expense that they may have. And then Pastor Gant is another one. He's a member of the Grand Rapids Baptist Fellowship, and they sent a communication, and it's made up of 16 different churches. And Pastor Gant's church happens to be right where the cross section of both streets will be. And so for that church to be a part of that group that's also supporting is another benefit. And then the Chamber of Commerce, the West Michigan Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Blue Cross and Blue Shield, Metro Health. There's just so many organizations and businesses that exist right on that corridor. And then I will kind of close with the sign. I think the commemorative signs that we amended the original request with to add commemorative signs of Grandville, which was named after the neighboring city, by the way, for history's sake. And then for Franklin, we did that because we do recognize that there are organizations who have those names within their names. And so this would help them to feel comfortable with not having to make those changes. So we did that. And then a business that is located on Granville currently has agreed to pay the cost for the change of those commemorative signs. And then there were a lot of conversations about the work that's been done on both corridors by the city of Grand Rapids, and I think we should be applauded for this. A lot of road construction, a lot of park renovations in both of the neighborhoods. Housing development is either happening or has happened. Can't speak enough about the road construction. And then even the investment for some of the SIDS with facade improvements on Franklin Street particularly, and then also the renovations that are forthcoming in the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Park Lodge. And even the existence of the neighborhood association there was an investment that the city made again into those corridors. And I'll just end with, for my colleagues, I implore each of you to take heed to Dr. King's words. The time is always right to do what is right. Please support this historic effort. We have not, I don't know if anyone has done the homework on this, but we believe that if we're not the only, that we're one of few cities that will have Martin Luther King Jr. and Cesar E. Chavez Street crossing one another. And so I think with the city's vision to be internationally or nationally known for its work, I think that would be worth doing some homework on so that if indeed that is the case, that we will be recognized for such. So please join me in supporting this. And I'll close with signs are powerful, and without a spoken word, send messages. Sometimes those messages are of direction, like traffic signs, and other times of oppression. Think Jim Crow. The March Committee is seeking to change the names of these streets as a sign of unity, peace, and power, something these two civil rights heroes who have never met boldly represent. For we know representation matters. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. Really well said. And I appreciate you walking us through all the hard work of these past couple years and in the midst of a pandemic. And I know a lot of listening took place and a lot of conversations, a lot of hard work. So